Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Nadia Nash, your host for the Asian Le Mans Series. We're here in Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia for the penultimate round. And to shake things up a little bit, we're going to be having race and qualifying on the same day. And that's not all. We will also be witnessing our first night race of the series. It's going to be exciting. Flag off is scheduled later at 5 p.m. and the race finishes at 9 p.m. But right now, as of this moment, GT cars are out on the track for their qualifying session, and I would like to invite Graham Goodwin here with us, our series commentator, to have a little chat. So Graham, the car's already out for GT qualifying, but before that, Sepang, how great is this weather and what we can expect?
Well, it's absolutely great. It's something like 90 degrees out there at the moment, but we've had heavy rain for free practice sessions both last night and during the day, and we're expecting more of that for the race tonight. It's going to make for a really exciting 4 hours. Strategy will be all over the place, tyres will be all over the place. We've got championship positions and Le Mans entries up for grabs here this weekend and next weekend at Am. Can't miss this one.
Exactly, and of course, the race is ending at 9 p.m. It'll be dark by then.
Very, very dark, but under the lights here. The light here is fabulous. The cars really look superb under the floodlights. GT cars going on their fast runs now. The action starts right now.
You've got it right there. And then, of course, you're going to be in commentary box, but not alone. We've got Jeevan Selvanathan here to join us as well. Jeevan, how are things looking from up there?
Things are looking great from up here, Nadia. The commentary box has been opened a little bit earlier this weekend, of course, what with free practice being really exciting. I think Graham was just talking about the two rain situations that we had during those two free practice sessions yesterday. But this really, as Graham pointed out, is where the championship kicks off at round 3 of the Asian Le Mans Series 2019-2020 season. The GT cars, as you can see, already out on track. The first of 3 qualifying sessions. That is the new format for this year. 15 minutes for the GT cars. After this, there'll be 15 minutes for the LMP3s. And then, of course, 15 minutes for the other 2 classes in ALMS, LMP2 and LMP2 Am. A lot of great stories from each of those championship classes that will be possibly settled this weekend. When I say this weekend, of course, I mean today, because as you pointed out, Nadia, it is a very special format for this round 3 weekend at Sepang. Qualifying happening right now, and then just a 3-hour break afterwards for the teams and the drivers to get themselves set up for race. And as you pointed out, the first ever night race, or at least half night race in the Asian Le Mans Series. It'll be kicking off, or flagging off, I should say, at 5 p.m. and then it'll be racing into the dark. That's the term. Of course, to everyone watching, qualifying and race, please do get in touch as well. Don't forget the handles. Hashtag 4 Hours Sepang, hashtag Asian Le Mans, hashtag Endurance Racing for Asia. Loved to see all of your comments coming in at free practice for that. We'd love to see your comments coming in for qualifying and race as well. And of course, if you're watching on the official Facebook page, then both Graham and myself would love to hear your comments, and do keep them coming in. Right now, 6 cars are out on track. That is the GT class for this weekend. Unfortunately, there are 2 teams that couldn't make it due to logistical problems. So that's FIS Team AI and, of course, Astro Veloce Motorsports. But that means that the 2 class contenders, or championship contenders in this class, Car Guy and D-Station Racing, already out on track. That is that number 77 car, beautiful Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3. And already putting down, as Graham said, already starting up their fastest laps. Looking good so far. And I can tell you that it's actually Combe Ledegar in that Car Guy Ferrari 488 GT3 that has already started putting down some hot rubber, should we say, on this track. Graham, back in the studio with me. 6 cars out on track right now. It's a hard-fought GT class anyway, but Car Guy really need to get something out of this.
They do. They're looking to tie up this title as quickly as they possibly can. 2:05.305 for Combe Ledegar, who's taken that car out this morning. He was quickest in free practice 2 yesterday evening at the end of the session. That was a wet session in the middle, but got dry right at the end, and big improvements for a number of the cars. Alessandro Pierguidi in the 51 car, he's what, it's 5 thousandths of a second off Ledegar's best time at the moment. But this car is in the older 488 spec. Suffered some gearbox damage earlier in the weekend. They've not got the spares for the Evo package. They've reverted to the previous spec of car. Started the weekend as an Evo, as the other three are. That's indeed this car is, the car that debuted the 2020 package at the Bend and put the car on pole. But the Hub Auto Corsa car goes to the top and is first into the 204s for Davide Rigon, Ferrari factory driver, of course.
Completed.
Yeah, they're going to be going as quick as they can, as early as they can here. A bit of a threat of some weather coming. Can't see any visual evidence that we're going to get that anytime soon, but as you'll know, Jivan, in this place, it can just surprise you. Pop up for pedestrian tunnel with a rain cloud.
And that happened twice yesterday, once in free practice one, once in free practice two as well. It was pretty heavy downpours.
It was. Went on for something like an hour in free practice one and saturated the track. Dried at the end of the session, but then again we had a pretty heavy, shorter, sharper downpour in free practice two. At the moment, it's not blue skies, high cloud, so the possibility of some weather, but nothing in prospect immediately. But I think almost definitely we're going to get some tonight under the floodlights, and that will make for some spectacular action. Bit of a wiggle there from Davide Rigon, struggling to get the power in as early as he'd like to see it from this 488 GT3. Car guy pit the car, Tom Ledegar 205, 305. They've got tyres ready for this car. They're going to change to new rubber, and there will be another opportunity. Brand new rubber, brand new Michelins on each corner of the number 7 car.
And for some of the other drivers, Alessandro Pierguidi is in the Spirit of Race 51. Rio Haryanto from the Indonesian T2 Motorsports team, number 75 car. Yuya Motojima in the J-Lock Lamborghini, and as we saw just now on Satoshi Hashini in the D-Station Racing.
Davide Rigon, though, drops to the bottom of the timing screens with a track limits violation, counting for that 204.376. He loses that, indeed has not the moment until he crosses the line now. Got a fast time to call his own. He does go straight back to the top, the 204.440. Gets the fastest lap, loses it, gets the fastest lap again. As out in the background there come the 77 car and the 7 car. Satoshi Hashino started that session. Ross Gunn, though, now, the Aston Martin factory driver, joins the session. This is where you're going to see the speed coming from the Aston, and with the number 7 car still in the hands of Tom Ledegar, second in the order. So Hub Auto Corsa, car guy, Spirit of Race, T2 Motorsports, it's Ferrari 1, 2, 3, 4, then the J-Lock Lamborghini, then the Aston Martin, but that was Satoshi Hashino getting a couple of extra laps this morning. Ross Gunn now gets the opportunity to show what he can do as a factory driver in that gorgeous Aston Martin.
So it's looking like the Ferraris are beginning to dominate what, remember, is a very short qualifying period. If you think about it, if you do the calculations of mathematics, 2:04, 2:10 laps, 15 minutes, it means you're looking at about 5 or 6 laps proper in the middle of that, where you could really lay your standards now.
At best, if they don't opt to come and change a driver, as one of the teams has done, change tyres as at least 2 of the teams have done. 75 car, the Indonesian entry, T2 Motorsports, they're back out, and it will still be Rio Haryanto. It is aboard that car. The top 4 cars, all Ferraris, separated by just a smidge over a single second, and a further 4/10 back, 3/10 back to the Lamborghini, and we wait to see what Ross Gunn is going to produce in the 77 car. But this is going to be a close session right to the end here. I'm pretty sure of that. Davide Rigon going around, but will not improve on this lap. I suspect we're going to see Davide into the pits at the end of the lap he's currently on. But Haryanto, I suspect, will go for a fast lap at the end of this outlap. New tyres again on board the 75 car. Is our Lamborghini entry, J-Lock, the Japanese Lamborghini Owners Club. Long-time contenders in GT racing, both in Japan and, for that matter, across Asia, and at the Le Mans 24 Hours previously in GT1. With a variety of Lamborghinis down through the years.
Looking very smooth through there. That's turns 9, 10, and 11. But of course, we're saying smooth now because it's a perfectly dry track. Saying that, it did actually rain overnight, and there was a threat, as you said, when we arrived at the track this morning, that it might continue. But this sudden burst of sunlight everyone's, of course, welcome to it, but we don't know how long it's going to last. You can just see the tail end of some grey sky up at the top of the screen.
It's a much quicker lap, this, from the Lamborghini. It's 2:05.907 for Yuya Motojima at the moment, but improved in both sectors so far. Just how much improvements? Well, we're measuring kind of progress up the order here in tenths, and he's not going to have to improve by very much to see a bit of an improvement from his current 5th position out of this 6-car grid of GT cars. And he goes up 1 position. It takes something like half a second out of his best. And to give you an idea of the margins here, he's gone through in a 2:05.347. There are 2 other cars ahead of him, both in the 2:05.3s. So less than, 500ths of a second would put him 2nd and not 5th.
And there are the Car Guy team watching those screens avidly. As I said, they'd be looking for a pole this time out. Of course, the 2 poles so far in Shanghai and the Bend are claimed by Hub Auto Corsa. They'll be looking for their 3rd in a row if they could do it here. And so far, Davide Rigon being the only driver on 204 in that level, he's looking very good for it.
But at the moment, every single sector time of a car on a hot lap is a green sector time. So quicker times are coming as the clock ticks down. We're getting down towards just 3 minutes to go in this session. So there'll be time for the lap that they're currently on, 1 and in some cases possibly 2 more if they want it. The 51 car here in the hands of Alessandro Pierguidi, of course, FIA World GT Champion. Then Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin. Then side by side, the Car Guy car, the very yellow car to the outside there. And Hub Auto Corsa in the hands of Davide Rigon, clearly heading for the pit lane. Speed of race in the hands of Alessandro Pierguidi. He's not letting it bother him too much. That's the older spec of car. He gets a lap into the 2:04s, goes 2nd, but then 3rd as Ross Gunn puts the Aston Martin onto the front row. It's a 2:04.593, but then he's knocked back to 3rd because Com Ledegaard goes to the top. He's in the 2:03s. So from 2:05s to 2:04s, now 2:03s, and it is Com Ledegaard, the number 7 car, the championship leading car, the championship winners from last year. Car Guy go to the top, ahead of Club Auto Corsa, ahead of D-Station Racing and Spirit of Race.
So we've got all sorts of changes in this order with just 2 minutes left to go in the session.
But it looks to me like Com Ledegaard is going to lose that lap. It's a track limits violation by the look of things. Turn 14 for Com Ledegaard, so it will be Davide Rigon when this readjusts. Indeed, Com Ledegaard goes back to 5th. Hub Auto Corsa back to the top of the time against scoring. Then the D-Station Aston Martin, T2 and Spirit of Race in the top 4. J-Lock at the moment, not looking great here. 6th position for Yuya Motojima. Looked as if he could actually make an improvement a little earlier. He's not at the moment going to be able to do that. In fact, pits the car. That is session done for the Lamborghini. T2 move up to 3rd position. Harianto with a 2:04.613. So it's all the 2:04s, top 4. 2:05 for Car Guy, who did have that lap in the 2:03s, but that's been taken away from track limits. But has put in a purple sector, Com Ledegaard in sector 1, looking to make amends. We've still got a minute to go. So a number of these cars have got the opportunity for this lap and 1 more if they wish to. They may not wish to. They may opt to look after the tyres they've got on the car at the moment.
That's nail-biting stuff you're describing there, Graham.
So Ross Gunn at the moment coming towards the line now through the final turn. He is on here for potentially a pole position lap because that's just gone to Alessandro Pierguidi. Grabs it by 300ths of a second. Ross Gunn a further moment or 2 back. Lost some time though there in the last sector. Car 75 D-Station gets that lap deleted, that's why. So he loses that lap for track limits. So Com Ledegaard back to the top. 2:04.141 from Alessandro Pierguidi, from Davide Rigon, from Ross Gunn. 1, 2, 3 for Ferrari. 4th position and on the 2nd row for Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin. Has an opportunity to improve though, because with 7 seconds of the session to go, we've got cars on fast laps still, including the pole position setting car. Hub Auto Corsa, they've bailed out. They'll do no better than 3rd. Davide Rigon having sat at the top of the session for so very long. It's going to do no better than 3rd. Rio Haryanto will finish no better than 5th. In fact, will finish 5th. The Lamborghini will finish 6th. Ross Gunn is improving though on this on this this lap.
They're going to give the tyres to the Am.
So Conledegar looking at the moment pretty secure, waited to see what kind of second sector we've got from Ross Gunn. A little wide, I gather, from feedback from the camera operators.
Oh, a little twitchy there.
He's pushing, without a doubt. He's definitely not improved his own sector time in Sector 2.
Now, this is where he lost that time on the last lap, right at turn 15.
He did indeed, ran a bit wide there. It's a tricky turn to get right. Looks terribly, terribly simple, doesn't it? But it's a tricky turn to get right. Fire the car back down. But can he improve his position from 4th? He's due to go across the line in just a couple of seconds now. 4th position at the start of this lap. Will he stay there? And he does. He improves his lap time, but not enough. It's Conledegar from Alessandro Pierguidi, from Davide Rigon, from Ross Gunn, Rio Haryanto and Yuya Motojima. Ferrari 1, 2, 3, Aston Martin 4th, but tight stuff.
And look at the smiles on the face of Keiko Zelina. We were just saying how important it was for Car Guy to get a pole here in round 3. They've got it.
They've got it, and it's going to basically just helps them even more towards that championship win they're looking for, and towards that assured entry for the 2020 Le Mans 24 Hours. To get that assured entry even before the selection committee announced their decisions in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, as the championship's standings right now, it's basically 2 points between Car Guy and D-Station Racing right at the top. Anything can happen.
Absolutely, and we've still got 51 points now up for grabs between here at Sepang and next weekend. Remember, back-to-back races at Buriram.
Now let's have a look at the track map for Sepang. Of course, a very famous track now that we've known for almost 20 years, been upgraded, of course, with lots of new camber put on certain corners. But of the 15 corners that make up this track, you've got smooth, and you've got technical, and you've also got challenging.
There's some really sweeping turns here, some really fast, some really high-speed turns here, but there's also some very tight technical stuff. And we saw that through that session, even with just 6 cars of broadly equal pace out there. Still difficult to string together the very best lap. But with the LMP cars on track as well, that's when it gets fast and furious.
So as we get closer to the LMP3 session, of course, we will be talking to Conledegar from Car Guy, trying to find out a little bit more about how exciting it is for them to be starting on pole for this very special race. It's going to be racing into the dark.
Indeed, 10 minutes, by the way, until we get into our session 2, which will be the LMP3 cars. There's Conledegar, man in the middle there with the white lanyard. That is Amato Ferrari, the AF from AF Corsa. So Amato with the piercing blue eyes. And correctly, very pleased indeed. A late addition to this team, joined from round 2.
And it really hasn't been the same season as they had last year. It was pure domination for Car Guy last year in terms of poles and wins. They've had a lot of fights this season.
But because it's a much boosted GT grid here. I know we've lost 2 or 3 cars for various logistical reasons for this round, which is a real shame. But nothing wrong with the quality of what we got left.
Absolutely. Of course, this is being round 3. We've already seen 2 really great races that have in November and in January. One of them was really a standout, and that was South Australia, the Bend Motorsport Park. Let's have a look back at round 2 in January. This is what happened.
After almost 20 years, sports car racing was back down under at the Bend Motorsport Park, a brand new venue for a brand new era. And it starts, it would be the Eurasia Racing New Zealand car that would take the lead through turn 1. In GT, there was trouble early on for the number 77 Aston Martin. Trouble too for the number 16 BMW. That cost the Car Guy Ferrari a drive-through penalty. Not enough, though, to stop the defending champions from taking the race win, part of the 1-2-3-4 for the Ferraris that dominated today. Complete turnaround from Shanghai. In LMP3, there's trouble for the number 14 Ligier, a broken brake line, a spin, one of many, I'm afraid, for the number 65 Vipanisa Racing Ligiers, and trouble too for the Graf Racing Norma late in the race with rear end damage ending their day. The win, though, would go to the Nielsen Racing number 2 of Tony Wells and Colin Noble. In LMP2 Am, there was drama for the early race leaders as the RRM Sport Orica of John Ferrano and Arjun Mani burst into flames. Ferrano was okay. That left a dominant 1-2 for the Rick Ware Racing pair. The 52 car, Gustas Grimbergers, just 16 years old, and Cody Ware coming through to take the win. Dramas in LMP2 as well. This for the number 33 Inter Europol Ligier. This for what was then the leading car with Daniel Gaunt, the number 1, almost eluding the lead to the Dallara until Jack Manchester had his own dramas. More drama for Daniel Gaunt as he faded toward the end of the stint. He would climb out the car with severe cramp as Shane van Gisbergen climbed aboard the number 1 Ligier. Into the mix came the number 26 Aris, and that would go into battle with the 2 Eurasia Ligiers, with first Shane van Gisbergen, then Nick Cassidy taking the fight to the number 26 car. It would be Cassidy closing in on Roman Rusinov. Rusinov, though, was stalwart in defence, Cassidy getting by just the once before the gearbox said no. The car into the garage and out of the race in the late stages, leaving a cruise to the line and a second consecutive win for the number 26 crew of Roman Rusinov, James French and Leonard Hergenboom. A great result for Aris, a great result for G-Drive, and a great result for Algarve Pro Racing. There was joyful scenes on the podium once again.
In pole position for GT, of course, it's Car Guy, and we've got Kay with us, Takeshi, and of course the guy that drove the car in, Com Leduga. How was it out there for you? Of course, was it hot?
It was hot, but you know, for a few laps it's okay, and it's always amazing to have new tires, low fuel in such a nice track. But I mean, it was not so easy because I think on the first set we were not perfect on it, and then on the second set we adjust a bit, and I think the car was just mega. It's a dream car to drive, and was just a pure pleasure moment to drive this car at this track. So I'm really thankful to these guys and to the team.
Fantastic, and we saw the celebration in the garage when your name popped up at first, and then it was pole position for Car Guy. We want to hear from you guys. How was it when you first saw the results, and what does this mean going into the race today?
Thank you so much. Thanks over Ferrari and Combrilla. And today race, fight, push.
Yes, from practice, I was quite confident we would get pole position, you know. But I think the most important is it was the teamwork to really build up Comp to this speed. We gave him a lot of time to drive, and also we gave a lot of time to Takeshi to drive. So, of course, the race is the most important, but we did a real good build-up throughout the weekend. So I think the results came out, yeah.
Fantastic. Car Guy looks like they are ready, and like Takeshi said, fight, all for a race that's coming up just a couple of hours. Congratulations, boys. That was Car Guy for you.
Thanks a lot for that, Nadia. That was great to hear from Car Guy Graham. And this, funny enough, this was one of the teams that we were talking about last night during free practice with the MD of the Asian Le Mans Series, Cyril Tashwal, and he was saying how important it is to have this Japanese influence coming in. They were just talking about the great teamwork. Kei Cosolino was talking about the great teamwork. That's what won them that class last year, but they're showing it again now.
Absolutely, they've been a figurehead for both this series and for Asian GT racing in international sports car racing. Remember, the Car Guy team, they had something like a 3 to 5 year program to get to Le Mans. They managed it in year 1, they're going again in year 2, and look what's happened. We've got a number of other Asian players in the marketplace deciding they'd like a bit of a piece of that action, and it's given them a great big target on their back competitively. Let's wait and see what happens for the rest of this season. At the moment, it's looking very good for Ferrari, and particularly with this new Evo package that's on board 3 of the 4 cars here this weekend. But for me, one of the big successes this year has been the resurgence of the GT class, and in particular, all bar one of the full season 9 cars we've had for this Asian Le Mans series have been teams out of and operated from Asia.
And that is ever so important, really. I mean, in terms of the grand scheme of things. Now, looking at the 4 classes that we've got and the quality of Sepang itself, Are the GT cars going to have it a little bit easier this time because of this beautiful track?
It certainly helps if you've got a racetrack that supports. Clearly, it's a wide Grand Prix, graded track here. It does help in traffic. Certainly better than the back end of the bend, where there were considerable difficulties with traffic. Fantastic track, but certainly a real challenge for the drivers once you get into traffic. Here, that is easier. For instance, the section we're looking at there now, the start-finish straight, and that back straight on the other side of the iconic grandstand. Plenty of space there for the GT cars to just let an LMP car go. But this is a challenge. Make no mistake, it is a properly technical track. And GT cars, because they lack the downforce of the LMP cars, you've got to go where your downforce will carry you.
You've got to go where your car goes,
You will, and
essentially.
in very many places where an LMP car, you can actually pick a line. In a GT car, it will be one fast line through there. If you're not on that fast line, you are ceding time to your competitors. So it's going to be, I think, a really interesting opportunity to see just how well these cars race together. The 4 classes of car, remember, LMP2, the LMP2 Am class for the older spec of LMP2 cars with the Nissan V8 engines, then the LMP3s and the GT3 cars. And then you've got the additional challenges. One that we know for certain is going to be coming, racing into darkness and under the lights. And the other one we believe is going to happen, which is the potential for some really quite heavy weather going through this. And, you know, we know that race director Eduardo Freitas has got a record of trying to keep the racing going as long as he possibly can, whatever the racing conditions. We've seen it at Fuji in the WEC with torrential rain. We saw it at Spa last year with snow during the race, and you know, still through that, albeit with judicious use of the facilities he's got available to him, whether or not that's with the safety car or with full course yellow procedures to keep it safe, but to keep the flow of the race. I think we're going to see nearly 4 hours of green flag racing. I hope so.
Well,
anyway.
we hope so. That's what we've seen, as you said. But there is a limit. Of course, there was the Dubai race that was washed out recently as well. We're hoping not to see that again. The 2 rainstorms that turned up yesterday, I can tell you as a Malaysian resident, are very common around now. I was a bit shocked by them myself yesterday, but they really did change the complexion of both free practice sessions almost immediately. And as I said, with the timing of it right now, qualifying might be able to get through it, but the start of the evening race is at 5 o'clock, which is pretty much is target time.
I think we're going to take a look back at the highlights of that GT qualifying session, the 6 cars out there that produced such a tight timing screen at the end. So at the start of the 15-minute session, out they came. T2 Motorsports and Car Guy amongst the early takers for the session. But it was Hub Auto Corsa in the hands of Davide Rigon, Ferrari factory driver, that went to the fore in this beautiful Evo version of the car. New tyres, though, for Car Guy, and later on for T2 Motorsports. Saw them come into the mix as well. Com Ledegar and Rio Haryanto putting their pedal to the metal and trying to do what they could do to get the very best out of their machines. Com Ledegar it was that would actually do very well indeed. First man into the 203s, and then having to do it again with congratulations from Amato Ferrari when he lost his first quick lap to track limits.
A battle between the Ferraris, which is what we saw. And I said, I mean, it would have been different. As you said, 2 of the BMWs not here because of those logistical problems. Maybe not as full, but maybe we also need to see a little bit of a pickup from J-Lock. They've had a bit of unfortunate time recently.
It's a bit odd, isn't it? They were I wouldn't quite say dominant, but certainly extremely competitive at Shanghai. Had a bit of a wobble at the bend and have not looked to be quite there here. But that is a team, I believe, that raced here before with Super GT from Japan. So they should have plenty of data for this car. For the Sepang International Circuit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in race conditions. It could simply be that they're concentrating on a race setup and not worrying too much about grid position. And that's perfectly valid when you've got, you know, a very high quality but compact 6-car grid. Let's wait and see how those guys can progress through the 4 hours. We're about, though, to go live with the next session. It's the LMP3 cars next. And this is a class that's been boosted We've got 2 Inter-Europol cars with as a green flag at the end of the pit lane lets them go. It's the 2 Inter-Europol Ligiers out first, the 13 and the newly renumbered 18.
Yep.
New crew for that car. 2 Graf Racing cars, that's the tricolour liveried car there, and you can see the black car in the background in the pit stall. That's another addition here. The 2 Nielsen Racing cars, both Normas there as well. And then we've got the Ace 1 Valour Corsa, that's the bright yellow number 12 car there. And of course, Team Malaysia, Vipanisa Racing will be out there to play as well. 8 LMP3 cars to come with this session. And calling the drivers are out there so far. Garrett Grist, who was quickest last night in free practice 2, will be in the number 3 Nielsen Racing car. David Drew, a very quick man and with a lot of extremely good form in the European Le Mans Series. He's out the number 9 Graf car. Matthias Kaiser is the new addition in the newly entered number 8. Alessandro Bressan, who produced that fantastic opening stint at Shanghai, he's in the 12 car. Nigel Moore, a man with championship-winning pedigree here in the Asian Le Mans Series, and has won all sorts of races and has excited us in the commentary booth, and I'm sure you at home. He's going to be aboard the number 13 Inter-Europol competition car. Locally based Dan Wells, Asian-based Dan Wells, English driver in the 18 Inter-Europol car. Dominic Ang will be out in the number 65 car, and we're waiting to see who's going to bring out the number 2 car. Likely, I think, that to be Colin Noble rather than Tony Wells aboard the car. But we'll see in just a few moments. Clearly, Nielsen Racing giving themselves an opportunity for a bit of a gap in traffic to allow those guys to get their foot down.
Colin Noble, of course, picked up his first pole in the bend, and he'll be looking to make that back-to-back poles if he can. Of course, looking good.
Looking to double up the young Scottish driver. And another emerging force in LMP racing, and he's been honing that skill set here in the Asian Le Mans Series. He emerges now, and it is indeed Colin at the wheel. It is a neat and tidy 8 cars, 8 cars, 4 Normas, 4 Ligiers, in the penultimate race for this first generation of LMP3 race cars. We'll see the new cars here in Asia next season. The new cars will be in Europe from the spring this year. And the Norma becomes Duquesne, Ligier stays as Ligier, Ginetta and Odesse rejoin the fray in various series. But it's great to see a competitive LMP3 field here, and with some well-known names from around the world, North America, from Europe and from Asia.
And how competitive indeed. You were just talking about the difference of 4 Normas and the 4 Ligiers. Well, Nielsen Racing are currently topping this class with 44 points in a Norma, and in second spot, Inter-Europol Ligier with 43.
And they've been 2 of the dominant teams in LMP3 racing in Europe through this season. Inter-Europol with a huge commitment. Oh, big wobble there from David Drew in the number 9 car over the curbs and getting the power in just at the wrong moment. But the Nielsen Racing crew with 2 cars apiece in the Michelin Le Mans Cup and in the European Le Mans Series, and then as well actually adding this 2-car effort here for the second year in the Asian Le Mans Series. And then into Europol, what can you say about that little team? Started not that long ago with a single LMP3 car, 4 cars here.
Not so little anymore.
Absolutely, 2 LMP2 cars, 2 LMP3 cars, and will match that commitment in the European Le Mans Series to come. Wow. So they, numerically, a major part of the international professional racing scene in endurance racing.
So we still have about 11 minutes left in this session, so these cars are going to be just getting into their stride now, most of them taking advantage of the dryness of the track right now. As Graham pointed out, this might not well be the case in literally an hour.
Nigel Moore, by the way, at the wheel here. He, at the moment, has, in terms of the flying laps, purple sector in laps sector 1 and 2 for the number 13 car. They're looking to nail their colours to this trophy. It's a 2 minutes .380 from Nigel Moore. That is the time to beat. And to give it an idea of how that compares, Dan Wells, who has race-winning form in LMP3 cars here in Asia, 202.946, but David Drew, half a second back from Nigel Moore. So it's a Ligier, the 13 car, topping the times. Then David Drew, the number 9 Graf Racing Norma. Car 65, that's the Vipanisa Racing team that will lose their current lap to a track limits violation. But Nigel Moore and David Drew at the moment under 2:01. Then it's Garrett Grist, the Nielsen Racing car. We're obviously going to have to wait a little while to see just how close Colin Noble can get to this. Then 2 cars in the 3 cars rather in the 202s, and then we have Colin Noble still to complete a lap. And the Viper Racing car goes through with a 2:02.231, but will lose that lap.
Well, we're very familiar sight here to see Nigel Moore pacing his way around Sepang. He's done this in the last couple of years.
He's remarkably quick in these little
He
LMP3
is.
cars. And it's driving style very different from many of these guys. You can see he is, how can I put this, not gentle with that car.
No.
He is basically beating that car up around each lap, and it's a very effective driving style indeed. It's won races for Inter-Europol competition. We saw him last year in the H Le Mans series, putting the car way ahead of the pack. A big slide from Nigel there as he came through turn 14. Did he keep that on the track? I think he just about did. This is going to be an important lap.
Ever
Lost him a
so
10th.
important to keep those track limits within limits. Basically, you cannot abuse
But
it.
it did lose him a 10th there, and that could be important at the end of this lap. How close is David Drew going to be to whatever lap time is going to emerge from the force of nature? There's Nigel Moore. The 13 car crosses the line, does not improve. And I think we're going to see an improvement from David Drew. Is it going to be enough? So 2 minutes, .380 from Nigel Moore. That's 4/10 ahead of David Drew. What is David Drew? David Drew closes the gap. He does a 2 minutes, .502. So the gap now down to just over a tenth of a second, but not quite enough to go up into provisional pole position. Colin Noble, meanwhile, goes up to fourth. He's the third man on the 201, a 2 minutes, .977, but is already quicker again in sector one. He's going to be a challenger for the front row at the very least, if not pole position overall. So at the moment, Nigel Moore from David Drew from this man, that is Colin Noble in the third place car, proudly wearing the colours of Scotland on the Nielsen Racing #2 car. For a very Scottish driver in Colin Noble. Garrett Grist is in the sister car. He's something like half a second back from Colin just at the moment. Dominic Ang finally puts in a lap, and that's a better lap than the one he lost. It's a 2:01.705 for the number 65 Viper Racing car, followed by the Ace Corsa Corsa, the second Graf car, and then the second Inter-Europol car. So the spread at the moment, something like 2 seconds between the 8 cars, but more significantly, around half a second between the top 3.
As we focus on this Nielsen Racing Norma M30, just rounding turn 15. As you were saying, great, very fast, very reliable performance from Colin Noble, but they haven't had that much luck. There was a shunt, I remember, there was a chassis change as well, and still getting their feet sorted out. But regardless of those challenges, top of the championship class at the moment.
Indeed. So what we've got at the moment, though, is I think David Drew on this lap is making a real challenge for pole position. We've not seen an improvement on the sector times here for Nigel Moore, but we've seen improvement for both sectors so far for David Drew. He's just seconds away from finishing his 4th lap of this session. He's done so with a purple middle sector and a green first sector. What is the third sector going to produce, and is it going to be a Norma on pole position here? David Drew goes through, and he does. He takes a full second out of Nigel Moore, who has pitted the number 13 car. So David Drew, that's a marker. It's 2 minutes, .343 for Graf Racing. So it is set, what is that? It is 0.03 of a second ahead of Nigel Moore, but took half a second, but my apologies, out of the mark set by Nigel Moore on his quickest lap. Waiting
there
to
is
see.
Nigel Moore.
There is Nigel Moore. Now they're putting new tyres on that car. That car is going back out with 6 minutes to go. They weren't quite new. They were scrubbed tyres. David Drew, meanwhile, is still pushing here. Looking for what his first sector time on this lap is going to be. For about a 52, low 52s, if this is going to be a competitive lap time. It is a competitive lap time, so he's pushing.
Well, it certainly looks like he's pushing in. He's apex to apex and really throwing that car around right now as he comes up to 9, 10 and 11. This is uphill now.
Apologies, there'll be no challenge on this lap from Colin Noble. He's losing the lap time he's got at the moment to track limits. So the third place car in the order will stay third. So what have we got now? David Drew pushing. He has, as we said, it's a 2 minutes .343, plays a 2 minutes .380. Nigel Moore, though, is out on fresher rubber. It's another purple sector in the middle sector from David Drew. He could improve this lap time here His first sector time was not that far away from the time that gave him pole position. He's on the back straight now. That's not Nigel Moore ahead, that is the 18 car. In the hands of Dan Wells, is improved by the way up to 7th position.
Turn 15.
Drift wide there, but that's all fine. Here comes David Drew. 2 minutes, .343 becomes 2 minutes, .311. He shaves a further 300ths of a second from that. Just makes it a little bit tougher for Nigel Moore, but let's not forget they're still in the same 10th of a second here. Yep. Tiny margins.
It's interesting that both Graf cars currently topping and bottoming the list. That Matthias Kaiser, number 8 Graf car, with just 2 seconds back with his best. But that's the spread. It's literally 2 seconds for 8 cars.
It's 1.7 seconds across those cars, and that's pretty remarkable. Bearing in mind we've got some fairly inexperienced drivers in terms of international form here. Nigel Moore getting some heat into those Michelin tyres. This is Nigel coming down that back straight behind the start-finish grandstand. Now he'll get the power in, and this will be his shot at pole position with just under 4 minutes to go on the clock. What can Nigel Moore do about the challenge ahead from David Drew? He doesn't need to find very much. A 10th of a second at the moment, a single 10th would be good enough, but pole position back in the hands of Nigel Moore, the number 13 car, and inter-Europol competition for that matter for Ligier. At the moment, 3 of the top 4 are Norma M30s. It's just that sole Ligier sitting second at the moment.
And that other Norma sitting at the bottom.
David Drew, meanwhile, has lifted off on this lap. I'm sure we'll see him into pit lane having given his best. It was a pretty darn good best.
5 laps out, and he's now, well, one of 3 drivers that have hit almost 2 minutes flat. Of course, then 4 after them in 2:01, but very tight competition.
So watching for the lap time emerging here from this man, Nigel Moore. And he goes straight into the 51s in sector 1. This is a shot for pole. Has to be faultless. Has to keep this thing on the grey stuff and not suffer a track limits violation. But that was an extremely quick first sector. I think that is something like 2/10 quicker than anything we've seen so far in the first sector.
Saving it for last, Nigel Moore.
Low 35s we're looking for now in the second sector. It's the shortest sector of these 3 timing sectors on the lap. And if he can get a purple or even a green sector here, he's looking good for pole position. Hard on the brakes. He goes with a purple sector there as well. It's a 35 dead. And now just the short run down, so rather long run down to turn 15, around that hairpin bend, the end of that iconic grandstand, and getting the power in. And what are we going to see? I think we're going to see something under 2 minutes here from Nigel Moore. So 2 minutes 380 he had, 2 minutes 311 is the target. He crosses the line now, and it's a 2 minutes .193, not quite under the 2 minutes.
But good enough.
It takes better part of 2/10 of a second out of the pole position time, the provisional pole setting time of David Drew, with a minute and a half to go on the clock. So there's no improvement in the final sector from Nigel Moore, but 2 purple sectors were enough. Up into second goes Garrett Grist from absolutely nowhere, and it's a 2 minutes .271. So from provisional pole, David Drew isn't going to be even on the front row at this stage. So Garrett Grist is, what's that, 800ths of a second back.
Wow.
Almost grabbed pole on that lap, and that was courtesy of 2 green sectors and a purple sector in the final sector. The Norma does seem to be very quick, and we know it's quick in a straight line, and of course that back straight, backside of the pits straight grandstand does give the opportunity for this needle nose thing to push very hard indeed. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what is his first sector going to be like here. Looking for something like a 52 dead. It was a quick first sector, by the way, this time around from Colin Noble, but he's lost time in the second sector. Not as quick, Garrett Grist, in that first sector as Nigel Moore. We've got
Yellow flag at T1. Well, that's interesting.
T11.
Oh, sorry, T11.
Now, that's worse news for Garrett Grist.
Oh, bit of a wobble there.
So
pulls it back. Well, how about that? That looks like ace one, if I'm right.
Ace one are indeed late. Alessandro Brissan is stopped on track at turn 11.
Well, that is bad news for ace one Villabor Corsa.
Colin Noble, meanwhile, has improved his time by about a tenth of a second. He will stay fourth, though. I'm not sure anybody's going to trouble his fourth position at the end of this session. Nigel Moore is cruising back to the pits. There's going to be no improvement on this lap from Garrett Grist, not allowed to improve, of course, with the yellow flag sector. He pits the car. So it is going to be Nigel Moore on pole position. David Drew, by the way, is back out there and attacking. But with yellow flags out, I'm not sure he's going to be allowed to improve that time.
Oh, fantastic for Inter-Europol.
So Inter-Europol, 2 minutes, 0.193. David Drew is going very quickly out there, but doesn't seem to be any sign that that number 12 car is going to be able to be moved in time. Nielsen Racing, number 3 car comes back with Garrett Grist completing what at the moment is the front row. And indeed, David Drew, I think, has got the message. He's lifted off in Sector 2. So it's going to be Inter-Europol Competition's 13 car, Nigel Moore, pole position. Alongside him on the front row in LMP3 is going to be Garrett Grist, Canadian flag driver. In the number 3 Nielsen Racing Norma. Graf Racing come home, and that will be 3rd slot on the grid for David Drew in the first of the 2 Graf Racing cars. And Colin Noble is out there and cruising towards pit lane. He will complete the 2nd row. Graf and Nielsen, 2 Normas on the 2nd row.
Still nothing from ace one Villabor Corsa.
No.
We've got question marks there for Alessandro Brissan.
So the ace one Villabor Corsa cars stopping on track. They will be the first car on the 3rd row alongside Vipanisa Racing. Actually a good qualifying performance at the home track there from Dominic Ang. And then Inter-Europol's 2nd car in the hands of Dan Wells, and the 2nd Graf car in the hands of Matthias Kaiser completing the grid. That was close-knit stuff.
2 seconds between 8 cars is how
but
close it
more
was.
particularly, it is just over a tenth of a second between the top 3, which is extraordinary stuff. We always see this in LMP3 racing. We almost always see this in LMP3 racing, but cracking stuff there from Nigel Moore, from David Drew, and from Garrett Grist. Colin Noble tried really very hard, couldn't quite find the extra tenths that was going to get him into that group, but it was that roughhouse lap there from Nigel Moore.
That's the only way you can describe Nigel Moore's laps, really, is really just pedal to the metal. And let's not forget, this means that Ligier are topping the grid right now, ahead of the Normas.
Absolutely, and what we've still to come, of course, is the opportunity for Ligiers to double up. They'll certainly treble up, with Ligiers only in the LMP2 Am class. But if you're kind of fan of UFC and watching the fighting in the octagon, it must have felt a bit like that if you were that Ligier with Nigel Moore going and kicking the hell out of you. We're going to hear it from Nigel in just a short while with Nadia down in pit lane. But another fantastic qualifying performance for the young Englishman. Real challenge out there this time from Garrett Grist. Great to see that team bouncing back. And from David Drew. So a real international feel. 3 different teams, 2 different chassis, 3 very different driving styles from these 3 men. This is going to be one corker of a race tomorrow. Tomorrow, it's not tomorrow.
It's tonight. Even got him. But it's great for you to Europol as well. So, before we get to the LMP2 and LMP2 Am category qualifying, let's have a chat now with the pole position sitter for LMP3. Nadia is with Nigel Moore.
Yes, we are right in front of Inter-Europol Competitions Garage with Nigel Moore here with us. How was that for you?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. We were hoping to improve towards the end there, and then we got yellows around at turn 11, which was a bit of a shame. We've got a lot more potential within the car, but I think most importantly, we've got a good race car. I think we've been pretty much on the front row for the last few years here. Me and Mike, where the engineers, done a great job, and so has all the team. They pulled together really well for this one. It's another point that we needed. I think for the race we're in a good position, very good driver lineup, me and Martin. We got on really well, and hopefully we can bring some good points back. Looking forward into the night, and hopefully we can gain more points for the championship, which is what it's all about, really.
Fantastic. He said it all right there because the race is just about 3 hours away, and I guess Team Inter-Europol is ready. Thanks.
Fast but very
Thank-
polite, Nigel Moore. And a great team player as well. He was actually just showing just then about how it's literally all about the team. He showed the same thing at Viper Nisa as well. What a great person to have in the cockpit.
Absolutely, they're looking to actually win a title here. They were terribly unlucky at the end of the European Le Mans Series race. A penalty levied after they won the final race cost them the race, cost them the championship, cost them the automatic Le Mans entry. They're looking to put that right here, and they'd love to do it in two classes. I think that might be a little beyond them, but Nigel has got his instructions. I'm sure he and Martin Hipper will be looking to put that car where they believe it should be.
Well, I think that that's just 1 point right now between, it was 1 point between Nielsen Racing and Inter-Europol competition. Of course, 1 point is awarded to the pole sitter. So as it stands, as we move into the race, it's at 44 points each between Nielsen Racing and Inter-Europol competition.
So you're getting into count back now, which I think is going to be, that's where you don't want to be at the end of a championship. So what these guys are going to want to do is go out there and put this beyond doubt. Go out there, put it on pole, win the race. Don't give anybody else the opportunity to go and do this by maths. It's got to be done by performance. And see that, something steely about the way that Nigel was actually approaching that. Let's go back to the track and an opportunity to just have a quick look from a driver's point of view of this fantastic Sepang International Circuit. This is going to be Ross Gunn, and he's going to be aboard the number 77 D-Station Aston Martin Vantage GT3.
Hi guys, my name is Ross Gunn, driver for D-Station Racing here in the Aston Martin GT3 Vantage. We are at the Sepang International Circuit, heading down the pit straight into turn 1, reaching just below 250 kph, braking just at the 100 meter board. Really long corner into turn 1, double apex. Try not to spin the rear tyres up too much out of 1 to have good rear stability into 2. Take a little bit of curb, use all the road on the exit. And then turn 3 is a little bit of an easy flat out corner, heading uphill to turn 4. Again, look for your braking reference just beyond 100 meters. Second gear, use the inside curb as much as possible, and then the outside curb on exit. Try and set yourself up for turn 5 straight over to the right hand side. Keep it in third gear, just a slight lift. The Aston Martin is working really well through these sort of corners. Little bit of curb in 6. Out to the exit on the left, heading into 7 and 8, really long corner. Try and make it one corner into a long arc because it's a double apex. Again, out to the exit and straight back over to the right to line yourself up for turn 9. Braking just beyond 100 again. Try and get the curve on the inside and then straight into 10. Mind the rear on the exit, and also the rear is going to be oversteering a little bit into 11. And now we're heading into some of the best corners on the track. Again, a high-speed left-hander, followed by a fast right, but then we need to approach turn 14, thinking about the braking. Exit is so important out of here, so we've got a long straight heading down to the last corner. A little bit of time to rest now, think about the last corner, take a drink. And then again, we're starting to now think about the braking zone. Braking just at the 100 meter border yet again. It's a bit of a strange line into here. It's a little bit off canvas, so you miss the apex initially and then squeeze the throttle on the exit. And then that is a lap of the beautiful Sepang F1 International Circuit. Be sure to catch the race live on Facebook and the website starting at 5 o'clock local time on Saturday.
How about that? That was Ross Gunn in the number 77 D-Station Aston Martin, with 2 things to pick up from that hot lap around the circuit. One, the elevation and the gradient of it, which was really shown on that. The other was, did you notice when that was actually driven? Because it was in the evening. That's just the start of what's going to be happening later this evening as we race into the dark for the first time ever.
And you're going to get the opportunity to watch that live and free on this series' Facebook and YouTube channels. You are the second luckiest group of people in the world right now in international sports car racing. You get to see these cars pop on the TV screens. The only group luckier are the people who are going to get to watch it live, because these cars look amazing under these lights. We've got a bit of rain as well. Wow.
Well, it's going to be, let's just say it's exciting. I think one of the great benefits of this weekend is Graham and I have already had the opportunity to talk to a couple of the drivers. We did that during the free practice session. If you missed it, you can actually catch that on the Facebook page. But a lot of the drivers came out and said, if you put that combination together, lights, rain, Sepang, it becomes an entirely different proposition.
It's just ticking boxes all the way down. The guys are absolutely loving this. It's a very unusual calendar for the Asian Le Mans Series this year. Some big gaps between the races, and then we've got that short back-to-back race, all to do with the way the international racing calendar comes together in January and February. But we're back-to-back with Buriram here. But they're loving the fact that some changes are being made here, with a night race here, with the Bend being added, and of course the beginning of next season going to Suzuka as the first round. All sorts of good stuff, and drivers and teams loving this international flavour of the Asian Le Mans Series. Well, let's have a look back now at the highlights from that LMP3 session. Those 8 cars producing some really exciting fast lappery with tiny margins at the end. Let's go and look back. So another 15 minutes this time for the 8 car grid of LMP3s. 2 new additions to the grid here. Garrett Grist amongst the guys quickest at the start of the session. This is Colin Noble in the sister car from Nielsen Racing. David Drew also in the mix, the Frenchman in the proudly liveried tricolour coloured Graf Racing number 9. That car sat at the top of timing and scoring for quite some time. Garrett Grist too was there and in the mix right until the end of the session. Almost stole it at the end. The second of the Nielsen Racing cars, but after topping the times, being edged back, it was roughy-tufty Nigel Moore in the number 13 Inter Europol car that puts himself, the number 13, and the Ligier chassis to the top. It will be the 13 car that will start the 4 Hours of Sepang under the lights and in full darkness from pole position in LMP3, and he was correctly delighted with all of that.
And I'm sure Martin Hipper, his teammate, was also very happy with that. That's a very fast combination, Martin Hipper and Nigel Moore.
Yeah, super bronze, Martin Hipper, an engineer by profession, does a lot of the driver coaching for this vast array of talents.
I'm surprised that he's a bronze-rated driver.
Well, he's not a professional race driver. He's certainly one of the fastest bronzes out there. There was a proposal to put him up to silver this year, but that didn't happen. So they're able to actually put together effectively this little bit of a super team. So the number 13 car there. We're closing in on the time for the
big boys.
Of the big boys, indeed. It's going to be our LMP2 and the LMP2 Am. Just spotted, by the way, as we came back to live here, the course car going out. I think we've got Alex Young as the course car driver, the safety car driver this weekend. Spotted him going out in the Mercedes. There you go. So that will be the scene of what happened with the H1 Valorba Corsa car.
If you delayed 5 minutes.
So H1 Valorba Corsa, there's an oil clear up there, so they've clearly got some work to do. Let's hope that's not a drama that's beyond them to get the number 12 car back out. So it's clean up down. That was turn 11, wasn't it, for the Ace 1 car? Now that also probably explains why we didn't see Alessandro Bressan at the top of the order. He's been one of the quickest guys this season, but clearly something arrived there with the number 12 car. That is indeed exactly where the number 12 car session ended.
That has to be the yellow flag that we're talking about.
That's a long oil line.
Let's not forget that Ace 1 Valorba Corsa actually set right at the start in Shanghai, leading the race for the good first hour. It really looked like they were absolutely firing on all cylinders.
Dominated. And there's another change, by the way, for Ace 1 Valorba Corsa. Gabriele Lancieri steps out. Andreas Laskaratos, who was, of course, with the ARC Bratislava team. Just see, by the way, on the right-hand side of that shot, the car actually being trailered away. But, you know, it's this is going to be important times now for Ace 1 Valorba Corsa.
Because it really does come to this 4-event season. Because if you do have any kind of problems for one of the rounds, you are literally playing catch-up. And in this specific week for this season, as Graham pointed out, it's essentially a double-header this week. You have to pretty much get set up for Sepang and the grand finale in Buriram that's happening next Saturday. Don't forget, put that into your calendars.
Well, last night in the last of the free practice sessions, we saw a 1-2 for Eurasia Motorsports, the number 1 car and the number 36 cars, top and second quickest. We've got Nadia now down in pit lane with the team manager from Eurasia Motorsport, Mark Goddard, with Nadia in pit lane now.
Thank you, Graham.
That is right, Graham. Mark Goddard here with us. He's got 2 cars out there just getting ready for qualifying. We want to know how you're feeling.
Very nervous at the moment. Obviously, both cars have a good chance of being on the front row, and that's always more nerve-wracking than when you don't have a chance. So it's big fingers crossed at the moment.
But does that also mean that everything's A-okay, drivers, cars, and everything?
Yep, everything's okay. The number 36 had some damage at the end of yesterday, but the guys repaired it, so we're good.
Fantastic. And we want to touch a bit on the weather. It was hot just now, but it looks like dark clouds are looming. What do you think?
Well, that will make it quicker as long as it doesn't rain, so hopefully it doesn't rain.
There you have it, Mark Goddard with us. Well, the 2 cars, car number 36 and 1, and the drivers are looking fantastic. So we are really excited, and all the best for the LMP2 qualifying. Back to the studio.
Mark Goddard, the team principal from Eurasia Motorsport, one of the most colourful people you could meet anyway, always positive. And from what he picked up there, well, he's looking good. He said the setup is looking very good for both cars. And as you said, they dominated free practice yesterday. This could be a big day for them.
Absolutely. Knows this circuit like the back of his hand. Has done an awful lot of the testing for this Ligier car with the drivers he's got here at Sepang. Safety car, by the way, taking a look. That might well be Alex Young taking a look at the work there to inform Eduardo Freitas back in race control how close we are to be able to get this session underway. Should be underway in about 3.5 minutes.
That's Eduardo.
Yep. So Eduardo himself is taking a look.
Wow, so
that's Nick Cassidy aboard the number 1 car, and it was Nick that went quickest last night in free practice 2 as the track dried rapidly after a short, sharp shower in the middle of the session. Dried quickly, and the 36 car is behind the number 1 Ligier. So these are the 2 Eurasia cars, the New Zealand liveried car there, the Aussie liveried car behind, debuted that colour scheme, of course, at the Bend. And it's the 36 car that's in championship contention. Realistically, they are looking for the G-Drive by APR car to have a bad day here, but they need a good day as well. They need to make up some points as well as the other team to drop some points. You're going to see, I think, an attacking drive from both those Ligiers later this evening, and I think they're going to be looking for every single point they can get, and that means pole. Now, for me, that could be quite interesting because it's the 36 car that needs to score that pole position.
Absolutely, and this is what we said about how some of the championships, or at least 2 of the championships, might be decided this weekend in Sepang, the biggest one being, of course, LMP2. 50 points for G-Drive Racing by Algarve with 2 straight wins, and then, of course, 37 points for Eurasia Motorsport. That's the spread. So, as you said, you need, which I find a little bit hard to believe, that G-Drive are going to have a tougher time. You never know, but they have been pretty flawless so far, in addition to Eurasia having an absolutely outstanding weekend.
There are soaring highs and terrific lows to be had from a short 4-race season. All it needs is for one team. We've seen this from the number 1 team. Marvellous pace from that team, but just one bad day and their championship contention, hopes are dealt a near fatal blow. It's going to be 8 hours to sort who's going to go to Le Mans this year. Is it going to be Eurasia? Is it going to be the G-Drive by APR? This is the K2 Yoshino car. Great to see them back after Hiroki Kurosawa was unable to join us at the Bend under doctor's orders not to fly. But great to see the pretty black Orica back on track. So it's the 4 Ligiers, the single Aurus Orica, the single Orica 07, and the Dallara.
Now, of course, if you have just joined us this is the qualifying for round 3, 4 Hours of Sepang for the Asia Le Mans Series, and we've already seen, of course, the GT qualifying. That was the first cars out, and LMP3 as well. 2 great sessions there, just waiting for the LMP2 and LMP2 Am session to start.
Updated information from race control. We saw Eduardo Freitas out on track looking at the preparations for clearing up that oil slick left by whatever's befallen the number 12 Ace1 Valour Corsa car. Further 5-minute delay, I'm afraid. Stick with us on this one. 13:10 now local. That is now 5 minutes away before we get the new estimated start of LMP2 qualifying. Could be, when I've been told, slippery track at the apex of turn 10. This is the 33 car, one of the pair. There's the other one, 34, pair of Inter-Europol LMP2 cars. No, your eyes aren't deceiving you. It is another two yellow and green Legers, this time of the slightly quicker Gibson V8 powered variety. 600 horsepower, as I say, from this Joule-like 4.2 litre V8, all produced back in the UK.
This is just one of these extra situations that racing drivers, and a lot of people don't really think about, have to deal with. Sudden delays, turning up, you're all psyched up, you're ready to go out, you're ready to put down the pole position, and then you're then sitting there in the car, very hot, of course, and this also brings that threat of rain closer and closer and closer.
But how special it is with the airline there, just giving yourself a little bit of airflow, because it's going to be very warm indeed sitting out there, if not even in direct sunshine, because the way the heat is delivered here, if you like, at Sepang, it's like an oven. It's a wall of heat as you walk out into it. So it's got Matthias Besch there just trying to keep himself cool, Swiss driver, of course. And Besch, with the Mazda backing there, is a local sponsor of him back in Switzerland, by the way. It's not a Mazda engine in the back of the car. Malaysian flag flying proudly.
Well, I think what you have to really point out and pick up from that, Graham, is if we're seeing wind like that, that rain might seriously be on the way. It looks beautiful, of course, that is a national flag, and all flags look great when they're moving like that, but that might be an indicator for rain. Now, when talking about those cooling systems, LMP3 and LMP2 Am, no cooling systems at all, but the other cars do.
The new LMP2 cars do have some cooling. The older LMP2 cars and the LMP3 cars don't have an in-car system. Some of those cars, you might well find the teams actually installing cool suits. You'll see these, it looks a little bit like a radiator on their kind of underwear, if you like. But, you know, make no mistake, if we do get blazing hot conditions at the start of this race, it's going to be a real challenge for every one of the drivers. The, you know, fit as a butcher's dogs, pros as well as the Am drivers. But 40 minutes to an hour in those conditions, in what effectively is a 200-mile-an-hour greenhouse, that's no mean feat. There we have another car that's been in contention through the year, another car that's had its fair share of good and bad fortune.
Yeah.
It's the Thunderhead Carlin Dallara, and that looks, is that Ben Barnicoat? I'm pretty certain it is.
Well, it was great to see these Dallaras.
No, it's Harry Tinkle, apologies, Harry Tinkle.
This Dallara come in, as you said, it's been great to have at Asian Le Mans Series as well, but let's not forget, they were actually having some unfortunate luck before running up to this season. Now they've had, of course, one pole. They got a pole in there. An almost win in Shanghai. It was too much driving time, essentially, for Ben Barnicoat that basically handed that to G-Drive. But you'd have to say that that up and down swing of luck has been really plaguing them.
But a win here could put them back into it,
yeah.
because they've scored some solid points for the earlier two races
They're
in the
fast.
season.
They're fast.
They're certainly quick. Jack Manchester, yes, an error, and a fairly serious one at the bend that cost them time with that damage with the impact with the Aston Martin. But when he's been on track, has been pretty solid. Ben Barnicoat, well, for me, massive revelation in an LMP2 car. Massively, massively quick. And also, by the way, astonishingly quick at the Bathurst 12 hours, having stayed on in Australia aboard the McLaren GT3 car. And Harry Tinkle, what can you say about Tinkle?
Well,
He's blindingly quick in absolutely everything he does.
Play music, please, Soundo. Okay, studio. What we're going to do here is, because we have so many takers now timed to finish at 13:30 hours, I can't extend, okay? So what we will do is, as the session wraps up, Graham, just wrap the session up naturally, please, and talk about tomorrow. It'll be rather time sensitive. We are going to try to get Nadia to then grab the interview with the pole sitter, and she will close the program out. Okay? But when you're in that little bit at the end, that's what we'll plan to do.
Just
yeah. I just noticed that now fucking Bush qualified to 13:15. Yeah, we still need to do that. It's not like I can. Won't worry about the interview. Yeah. So you wrap up, Graham. If the last Tell these fucking people, not me. Quickly tell them. When did you tell them? And I'm still in it. Fix it, guys. What is happening? You can still...
Well, as you can see, we're still just a little bit delayed on that last qualifying session. We've had 3 sessions, of course. That's the new format for this year. We've already seen GT and LMP3, LMP2 and LMP2 Am slightly delayed because of an oil spill. And as we've seen already, and that is it there, just I think it was turn 11, you can just see the absorbent sand that's been put down.
Well, we initially saw a note to say qualifying was delayed to 13:15. My guess is it might be a little quicker than that, because just seeing the safety car coming back in, it's now being called as the start of LMP2 qualifying on a short call. If it was Eduardo Freitas aboard the safety car, it might very well be that we're about to go green. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Stick with us. It will, I'm sure, be underway in just a few moments' time, the very maximum in a couple of minutes' time, and apologies for the delay in that.
Now,
so short call is basically at any point the guys could be told it will go green. So that could be literally that Eduardo Freitas steps out of that Mercedes-Benz safety car, gets back to his seat in race control and says, go.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Now, of course, we were talking about the LMP2 class, and you can see the cars just in the pit lane now. Just quickly, word on LMP2 Am. Rick Ware Racing, they had a nightmare in Shanghai. No cars to race in Shanghai. Much better, a 1-2 in the bend. And now, of course, with the sudden withdrawal of ARC Bratislava, they are essentially in prime position for this class.
Well, they're going to win the class, no doubt about it. It looks to be the 52 car. We've got green flag running. Thanks very much indeed, Race Control, and indeed the track workers here at Sepang International Raceway. And out goes the 52 car, the 26 car there too, and the Dallara, the Thunderhead Carling car. That is out there too. Let's call the drivers as they emerge. It's Roman Rusinov will be out aboard the 26 car. He headed free practice 1. Harry Tinkler we already saw aboard the number 45 Thunderhead Carling Racing Dallara. Cody Ware is in the 52 car with LMP2 Am. New addition to the 33 car, Daniel Nielsen Frost is aboard the 33 car, the Singaporean flag driver taking over there from Mitch Nielsen. And we wait for the remainder of the 9 car combined grid. How it is that will come out in the K2 Chino Racing 96 Orica. And we wait for the remaining cars, all 4 of the Ligier JSP 217s to emerge, 3 of those plus the 25 Rick Ware Racing car to complete the 9 car grid that is going to be out there for LMP2 and LMP2 Am qualifying. Roman Rusinov has a clear track ahead of him as he goes straight through the cement dust.
Might have a clear track ahead of him, but that was a tricky corner to get into.
I think he's looking to see whether or not there's grip there at all. So wait and see just exactly what occurs here. Eduardo Freitas will have been checking to see that there was the opportunity. to get the required amount down. Backing up these two cars, Cody Ware not hanging around, he's going by Harry Tinknell. Tinknell wants none of that, making that slightly more difficult for the LMP2 man, looking for the optimum line through this final turn to launch down to start-finish straight. A bit of game playing here, and away they go. Rusinov away and clear. Harry Tinknell will be on his tail, but with room to play with here, will be able to judge his own lap time by the distance of the car ahead. Cody Ware in the first of the LMP2 Am cars. They're the three cars already out onto their first flying lap. Roberto Merri is out there in the number 36 car. That's the Australian liveried Eurasia car. Woe yesterday in free practice one,
yep,
the car suffering
right.
some rear end damage. Matthias Besch, we've already seen aboard, and unbelievably got a red flag straight away. We've got a red flag immediately.
Okay, now find the car. Where's the car?
So further delays here, and do you think that's down to that turn 11 situation or something else?
I think somebody's off. It's where the Inter-Europol cars are straight off.
How about that?
So straight off the track. Now what we can't see at the moment is which of the two cars. That is either Daniel Frost in the 33 car or it's Matthias Besch in the 34.
Daniel Frost, the 18-year-old Singaporean, just joined the ranks of Asian Le Mans this weekend. And once again, as is always the case, Graham, cars out in the gravel pit at the exact angle where we can't actually see what number it is.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were saying there another car. Someone must
So,
have confused me in commentary then.
Those
okay.
marshals are, they just tried to move that car, but it looks
lucky.
like it's pretty dug in.
Yeah, they may need some towing assistance, so it may be, I'm afraid, a further delay there.
Camera 7.
It's car 33. It is Daniel Frost, Daniel Nilsson Frost, who's actually gone off there.
Well, what a debut so far for the young Singaporean. And the rest of the cars.
Costing time.
It is a lot of time.
So the clock has stopped at 12.5 minutes, so we will still have 12.5 minutes, but of course, the damage here is those cars that have completed an outlap will have to do so again. So it delays not just the session, but also their efforts to put in a flying lap and gives them one fewer lap opportunity to do so. We've got a snatch vehicle now with the 33 car.
There is Eurasia LMP2 just coming.
I'm not quite sure why that car was continued on to start-finish straight and not into the pit lane. Now that was a strange thing for Roberto Merri to do.
Oh, there's been a very quick series of events that we've seen, and I think as we were just saying, they were sitting in the pit lane waiting to go. I don't think it's going to be confused communication. That's pretty much instantaneous. It's red flag. You know what's going on.
I'm not at all sure why Roberto...
Well, he's coming in now.
Oh, no, I was looking at the wrong pit straight, of course, wasn't I?
That was the back straight.
It was the back straight. My apologies, Roberto Merri.
They are very similar, the front straight and the back straight, actually. 927 meters.
There you go. That was the shot I thought I'd seen. It is indeed the back straight.
And the back straight actually has its own pit as well.
It does
which
indeed.
Is probably
That was
why
what I was looking at.
Yeah, that's probably why it confused you a little bit. Now they go, come into the other pit on the main straight, the home straight.
So cars just move to the right of the track into the pit entry.
Now the question here for you, Graham, from me is, we've seen 3 times put up on the screen.
No, they're not going to be...
But they're not going to be admissible because of the red flag.
Now looking at that, no, they were times set under a red flag. So their laps have been completed under a red flag, so that's not going to be admissible.
That's right, and actually they would be extremely quick laps if they were. It's 110, 194
no, that's sector.
The sector was 201, that's right.
So it's so at the moment, no competitive lap times completed. We've got 12.5 minutes of this session will run once we get back to green flag running. Should be a pretty quick process of getting that car released from the gravel trap, either back to the track or indeed to a place of safety.
How do you manage this as a team? What's your new strategy?
Well, they're changing tyres for starters, at least taking the tyres off that were on the car on the Dallara there. So those tyres will be going back out to the back of the garage at the very least. Don't lose the heat that's already in the Michelins you've got there. So Carlin Racing looking to do the best they can with the situation. They'll have discussed it. They won't have practiced it, but they'll know what to do to keep this car in its optimum condition, or the optimum possible condition. They'll get a short call, I'm sure, for that session to restart.
And while we wait for that, of course, once again, this is the third qualifying session. It is, of course, delayed, but the other two were completed. Car Guy and Spirit of Race taking the top 2 spots. Com Ledegar and Alessandro Pirguidi in GT, and of course in LMP3, Nigel Moore, fantastically flying lap, and a very fast lap considering the rest of the field in LMP3 were also very fast, just 2 seconds. In fact, as you point out, Graham, 1.7 seconds separating the 8 cars in LMP3. That was fantastic stuff.
Tiny gaps right at the top.
Tiny
it was
gaps.
Hundredths of seconds at the top, but
Yeah.
it required something special from Nigel Moore to put the car where he wanted the car to go. That's pole position for LMP3, keeping an eye on what's going on with the... so let's wait and see.
So, we're just waiting now to find out exactly what's going to be happening with that red flag situation.
So 12.5 minutes of track time available for these guys. Of course, the gap between now and race start is closing as well.
That's the thing. I mean, of all the times that you wouldn't really want a delay in LMP2 is the one day when the race is in 3 hours.
It doesn't affect any strategy, of course. Will affect the gap they're going to have if anybody hits mechanical
That's
trouble.
right.
That's Daniel Frost, by the way, back into
that's good to see.
pit lane. So might be a bit of a gravelly clear up out there, but then we'll get back into green flag running.
Let's look at, if he does take that tyre off, it'd be interesting to see the pickup on those tyres.
There will be a lot of gravel in that car.
Of gravel in there.
No, trust me, if that car goes back off the jacks and leaves, there will be a rockery there. Maybe it'll be a plastic gnome. But bring out a deck chair and have an evening on the pit lane. But the one thing it does mean is it's the small things. It's things like lunch, for instance.
Exactly, yeah.
So the timetable for the teams will be shuffling back inevitably. So all the cars are back on pit lane. We actually didn't see 2 cars start that session before the red flag came out. That was number 1.
It was immediate, you're right.
Eurasia car, that's the New Zealand liveried car with Cassidy at the wheel. And Rick Ware Racing, the number 25 car, didn't actually leave pit lane either before the red flags flew. So we wait and see just exactly when the session is going to restart. I can tell you that will be restarting in 30 seconds time at 13:23. So we're going to waste no time whatsoever. That'll be get the car back out, get the marshals back behind the barrier,
Fifth
and
gear.
the recovery, get vehicles back to a place of safety, get it going. So we're going to be cracking on any moment now. In about 15 seconds, the green light will go, be lit again at the end of pit lane, and I'm sure there'll be no delay in getting most of this grid back out.
Absolutely. And of course, when we're looking at all those cars just in the pits just now, we were just a summary, a quick re-summary, I suppose, of what's happening. I'm just, in fact, hearing the horn, and that would mean, yes, there they are.
So straight out Harry Tinknell, straight out Sean Tong. This is the moment where perhaps this is good news for the Carlin Thunderhead team. They'll have clear track ahead of them for clearly their out lap, and they will hope for the majority of the first fast lap that Harry Tinknell can get under the wheels of the Dallara. Quick turnaround, by the way, for the tyres that came off that car to go back on. They barely have had time to get those back into the tyre oven at the back of the garage. Good opportunity for Sean Tong with rather less experience in an LMP2 car than multiple factory driver Harry Tinknell. So, of course, GTLM, GTE, Pro factory experience with the Ford GT. DPI driver for Nissan in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and previously LMP1 driver for the short-lived Nissan efforts in the Le Mans 24 Hours, but did a lot of testing in that car, as well as huge amount of running and success, including Le Mans wins in the previous iteration of LMP2 with Jota Sports. And now here as a key part of this Thunderhead Carlin effort. Again, runs through the quick dry over the all slick left in the LMP3 session and pushing here. So Harry just trying to set this up for a quick attack on qualifying here of the 9 available cars here, 6 of them now on track. G-Driver out there, the Thunderhead Carlin car, we can see Rickway Racing's 52's back out, the 34 Inter Europol car, the 36 Eurasia car, and the K2 Achino, this car, the number 96 car, are all out. This is the start of the first flying lap for Harry Tinknell, and will be in a moment two's time for Sean Tong as well. Still no sign, by the way, the number 1, the number 25 out on track. Investigation underway, by the way, for car 33 for speeds under the red flag that would have been recovering to the pits. Not the first time we've had that this weekend. And Roberto Merri, I think, is expecting some bad news in terms of a fine for something along those lines as well. 36 and 52 coming around to start their first flying laps. It won't be long before we start to see what the prevailing pace is going to be here. Tinknell in his first sector. Through goes to start the lap number 36. That's in the hands of Roberto Merri, and the 52 car in the hands of Cody Ware. So Harry Tinknell moves on through. 49 seconds, 49.5 seconds, half a second quicker in the first sector than the number 96 car. For something in probably the mid-33s for Harry in the middle sector here, to set up a benchmark lap for the rest to chase. Roberto Merri will not be hanging around in this 36 car. They need every point they can possibly get to take the challenge to the 26 effort. It is a 33.3 from Harry Tinknell. But Roberto Merri is quicker than Tinknell in sector 1, so Merri at the moment looking quick. Matthias Besch is looking quick. Harry Tinknell is looking quick. This could be fun for the last 10 minutes of qualifying. Apologies for being so disjointed. That came, of course, initially as a result of a delay because of the oil slick laid down in P3, but then because of the off on the outlap for the 33 car, which, by the way, has now rejoined the session. So 1:54.569 for Harry Tinknell. Sean Tong goes through in a 1:55.1. We'll wait and see who's going to be next through. Roberto Merri won't be far behind. So Merri looking to me to be pretty close to that time of Tinknell, plus or minus a tenth or two here and there in the first two sectors. Roman Rusinov in the 26 car, quicker as well. So Rusinov is looking quick. Slippery conditions flag, I'm pleased to say, has been removed. Everybody's sighted that area now. Roman Rusinov is coming to the end of his flying lap. It's a 1:54.2. Roberto Merri goes to pole.
Well.
Merri from Tinknell from Tong. Cody Ware has put in a flying time for his LMP2 Am effort, but it's a 53.7 from Roman Rusinov. That's decimated the time of Roberto Merri, and it is 0.8 of a second quicker than Tinknell. It's half a second clear of Roberto Merri, but Merri's gone quicker again in sector 1 this time. Matthias Besch goes second. It's Aurus from Ligier, from Delara, from Orica at the moment. 1:53.701 for the Aurus, 1:53.711. A single hundredth of a second separates the two cars on the provisional front row, with Roberto Merri looking like he can challenge both.
Yeah, Roman Rusinov right now is absolutely throwing this car around the track. Hard braking into turn 1, and he's pushing it. He's really pushing it now.
He goes quicker than Besch and Merri in sector 1, so it's purple here from the Aurus of Roman Rusinov. Everybody pushing hard here. All the top 4 cars in the 49s in the first sector, all of them in the middle low 33s in the second sector. 1:53s and 1:54s is the order of the day. Harry Tinknell's opted to pit the Thunderhead car, and I suspect we'll see new tyres going on that car for another crack at this. So looking to see where the quick guys are going to be in sector 2. It's a 33.3 in sector 2 from Merri. It's slightly off that from Roman Rusinov, but only a tenth. So he loses a tenth in the middle sector, picks up a tenth in the first sector. This is going to be mighty close between these two men at the end of this lap, if that pace can be maintained. Still no sign, by the way, the number 1 Eurasia car in this session.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say.
1:53.9 from Roberto Merri has improved his time, but he's still 2/10 off the pole position time at the moment from Roman Rusinov, who does not improve. He's
well, that might be because of this traffic that he's facing. He's just cutting behind. He's cutting through some contenders.
Indeed.
Now he's got a clear track ahead of him. Maybe
that's
he's
not going to. That will have ruined his lap there. Thunderhead by Carlin back out again. We've got 5 minutes remaining. There's time again for the Dallara to have a crack at this. Antti Lazara, by the way, has joined the session in the 25 Rick Ware racing car. So both of the LMP2 Am cars we've got here this weekend are there. Into Europol in the hands of Matthias Pesch. Did not improve on the last lap and has pitted. Roberto Merri goes quicker again, purple in sector 1. He needs to find 0.2 of a second to challenge pole position. He's found one of them in sector 1. So 26 from 34 from 36. 34, though, has pitted. And Harry Tinknell right on the tail here of the provisional pole setting car.
That's not going to be helping him.
No, it's really not.
At all.
It's a quicker sector than he's done before for Roberto Merri in sector 2. He's going to close this gap. Little doubt of that unless there's problems in the final sector here. But can he do enough here to reclaim the pole position slot? Certainly this is not a quick lap for Roman Rusinov. I think he's heading for the pits at the end of this lap. Harry Tinknell has dropped back here from the Aris, is giving himself room to go again at the end of this lap for another fly with 4 minutes to go on the clock.
Well, that looks like that might be Daniel Frost.
No, that is Matthias Pesch leaving. I think again he's going to go for one more go on what will be fresher rubber. It looks to me to be very fresh rubber on the 34 car. Roberto Merri did not improve on that lap. He pitted the car on that lap. So he would have seen on his delta times there was no improvement to come. So 36 from third position. Now what are the tyres going on that car? Now, they were pretty new tyres going on in the first instance. These are scrubbed tyres going on for a final run. So used tyres going back on the 36 car. So the plan didn't come off for Roberto Merri there, I'm afraid. Nick Cassidy, though, has just joined the session with 3 minutes to go. Is it going to be a run to glory from the number 1 car here? So next to no running at all for the number 1 car. It'd be good to hear from Mark Goddard as to why post-session. So Roman Rusinov quick on this lap. This is another attacking lap from him. Harry Tinknell again quick on this lap for the Thunderhead Carlin car. Both Inter-Europol and Eurasia both on outlaps at the moment with just minutes to go. Daniel Frost is going quickly at the moment. He's powered up the order into the 54s now and troubling Harry Tinknell for what's at the moment his 4th position. So we could yet see significant change here. Nick Cassidy not on a competitive lap time here though. He's in the 51s, 2 seconds off in sector 1. So something wrong here.
As you said, Graham, it has been, once it started, almost a micro qualifying session for the LMP2 and LMP2 Am. Everybody trying to put their best laps in, the tiniest.
Here comes Rusinov. It was a 1:53.7 of course the time to beat. It's a 1:53.8. He doesn't beat that time. Sean Tong, though, is going very quickly here. Could we see something extraordinary for the 96 car? 49.0 in the first sector, 33.1, which is a purple sector in sector 2. Surely Sean Tong from 6th on the grid can't put this car on a pole.
That would be an unbelievable headline for LMP2. K2 Chino, of course, missed out on round 2 at the bend. Back in action here in Sepang, and by the looks of it, looking to make a statement of intent for...
He goes to top pole.
That's unbelievable.
The number 96 car, K2 Chino Racing, with 1 minute and 12 seconds to go. The first ever Japanese LMP2 team. Could they be the first ever Japanese LMP2 pole sitters? Sean Tong puts in a 1:53.563. He's a 1/10.5 ahead of the battling pair behind, the 26 G-Drive Racing by Algarve Aris and the Inter-Europol Ligier, Who has got anything left in what is the final minute of this session? Extraordinary stuff from Sean Tong. We're talking about him being the less experienced of the two drivers in this car. That's a great qualifying.
And that means Orica 07 at the top of the grid at this moment in time.
It does indeed. So Orica from Arabus, from Ligier, from Dallara, from Ligier and Ligier. But now Nick Cassidy puts in the fastest first sector of the session. He's in the 48th and the only man to do so. 20 seconds to go on the clock, and of course he'll be able to complete this lap. Nick Cassidy has come into contention. This is also, by the way, still a competitive run on this lap from Sean Tong. What's going to happen in sector 2 here? No one else at the moment appears to be in a position to directly challenge. Harry Tinknell could improve on this lap, but it will not be a pole-setting lap. So extraordinary stuff here. It's a good sector 2 from Sean Tong. It's not an exceptional sector 2, but Nick Cassidy is certainly going to vault up the order from 7th. Where he will end up, frankly, could be anywhere from 6th to 1st. Sean Tong down the back straight towards what will be the end of his session. Will this be pole position? He'll certainly be a provisional pole sitter as he crosses the line. But where is Nick Cassidy? There is Nick Cassidy. He goes to the top. Cassidy goes on a 1:53.094, grabs it right at the end. So I was wrong. Sean Tong does not finish the session as provisional pole sitter. Nick Cassidy for Eurasia Motorsport, for Ligier and for New Zealand Racing takes pole position right at the death, having only joined the session with 4 minutes to go. Cassidy is on pole position for Ligier. From K2 Uchino Racing, Sean Tong after an extraordinary lap from the Japanese team with a 1:53.563. And he didn't just take pole, he took it by half a second. Wow.
Unbelievable stuff here. We did have to wait a little bit with the delays for the LMP2, LMP2 Am qualifying session, but it delivered in the end. Or I should say, really, Nick Cassidy and Sean Tong delivered in the end.
Yeah, I hope they've not got a dog in the G-Drive Racing pit lane, because I think for certain Roman Rusinov would be kicking it. Not behaviour we endorse, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Not at all, not at all. Strictly a figure of speech.
That would not have been where he was expected to see the challenge from the
Absolutely,
Orica.
yeah.
And right at the end, we need to hear what the strategy there was from Eurasia Motorsport, because what looked like a problem turned into triumph. And there we have 1-2, the two black cars there. They are the front row for this evening. I'll get it right eventually. This evening's 4 Hours of Sepang.
I think you could easily stretch to say that Cassidy in Eurasia, based on his previous performances, could pull that out the bag. But what have you got to say about K2 Uchino? They're starting almost from cold scratch here at Sepang. Sean Tong, of course, just rocketed up to the top.
And by the way, just as a postscript to that, right at the end of the session, Anthony Lazzaro grabbed LMP2 Am pole from the team car by a 1/10 of a second. 1:59.525 played 1:59.651, the best from Cody Ware. So 25 from 52 right at the end of the session as well. But it's a 1:53.094. That will be the qualifying lap record for LMP2 in the Gibson engine era here at Sepang by the time we finish the day today and until next year at the very least. Excellent stuff from Nick Cassidy. Excellent stuff too from Sean Tong, and the two men side by side. I'm sure Sean will be a bit gutted about that one, but
he was probably really looking forward to it. Well, exactly. And it would have been great to see that. It just dips in.
Excellent stuff. So 1 from 96, 26, 34, 36, 45, 33, 25 and 52 is the bingo card of fortune in LMP2 and LMP2 Am. And that, whilst it kind of stuttered its way into action, the last 4 minutes, Shivan, absolutely excellent stuff from the top runners.
Yeah.
You know, let's not forget, until those last couple of laps, the pole position gap was 1/100th of a second between Roman Rusinov and Matthias Besch. And then all of a sudden, the firework that had been fizzling away in the corner suddenly decided to burst into life, and boom, in we go. Sean Tong giving us a surprise provisional pole, looking like he's going to carry that to the line, but it was Nick Cassidy ahead of him on the road that actually blitzed it even further, taking almost a full half second out of that.
It's unexpected is what it is.
Great lap from Nick Cassidy. That man we already know is a star right now, but he's a star of the future. Where could his career take him? Well, There's people talking about all sorts of opportunities for Nick, including top line in sports cars and including single-seater series with the word Formula in the title. So
I think I know one of those.
Yeah.
I think the big one, in fact, maybe.
Fairly big.
A quick word on LMP2 Am. Good outing, as you said. Rick Ware Racing essentially have ensured this championship, but how are the cars running for you?
Well, you know, they need to just run reliably, get those cars to the end. If you're just joining us, you may or may not know we've lost a couple of the cars in that class this weekend. Obviously, we saw the highlights of the bend earlier in the programme where the RLM Sport car, serious fire for that car and could not get the car back to us repaired. You know, huge logistical difficulties for the team and for the car manufacturer, and personal difficulties for Miro Konopka means that Miro is doing much more important things than motorsport this weekend back at home in Slovakia. And Miro, if you're watching us, all our best wishes from everybody in the Asian Le Mans family to you and to your family. You know, what we know is a very difficult time. But putting that aside, Rick Ware Racing, a new addition to the Asian Le Mans Series grid, they're here. It's going to be a 1-2 again if both those cars come to the end. But Eurasia Motorsport, what a performance there right at the end from Nick Cassidy.
And of course, Guy Cosmo was in the studio with us as well. He was talking about how great the setup was for Rick Ware Racing as well. So now, after all the delays and of course the red flag as well, we have got all three qualifying sessions sorted out, but let's have a look back at that final one, LMP2, LMP2 Am. This is what happened.
So this first, the 3 15-minute sessions saw the 6 GT3 cars, 2 of the Ferraris there leaving the pits, the Lamborghini in the background. First to the top came the Hub Autos Corsa car, the Evo version of the Ferrari 488, the 27 car in the hands of Davide Rigon. Also seeing the top of the charts, the 75 car, also now an Evo spec, the Indonesian entered T2 car, in the hands of Rio Haryanto. But the end of the session saw coming to the fore, Kamal Edgar in our championship leading number 7 car defending champions, and at the moment they'd like to regard themselves as champions-elect. Marta Ferrari congratulating Kamal Edgar. Second session, this time 8 cars on track, the 8 cars of our LMP3 contingent and a growing contingent. Number 2 car in the hands of Colin Noble late into the session, trying to push the Saltire liveried Nielsen car into contention. David Drew topped the session in his number 9 tricolour coloured Graf Racing Norma M30, but he was pipped at the post initially by Gerrit Grist. In the second of the Nielsen Racing cars, the Canadian flag driver, very quick all weekend here in the rejuvenated effort from the rebuilt number 3 after their problems with the car in Australia last month. But it was the 13 car, the Inter-Europol competition Ligier JSP3, muscled around by Nigel Moore. It is a Ligier, it is the 13 car, it is Inter-Europol competition, and it is Nigel Moore taking pole position in a result that now matters more than ever for the Polish team, Polish flag team, that brings 4 cars here to the Asian Le Mans Series. That's the thumbs up from Nigel Moore as he comes home. After a delay, because of problems for a car in the previous session, we saw the LMP2 cars out on track. The 26 car, first of the 4, Harry Tinknell trying to attack as well in the number 45 car. The 34 car also in the mix with Matthias Besch at the wheel of one of the 2 Inter-Europol Ligiers. They were the early contenders. Roman Rusinov looked like he grabbed it by just 1/10 of a second from Besch until we got into the last moments of the qualifying session. 26 car, though, was pipped first by surprise effort, came almost from nowhere. Sean Tong in the 96 K2 Achino Orica put the car on top by a distance. Looked like he might do it, but right at the flag, it was Nick Cassidy there in the foreground in the all-black, Kiwi-coloured Eurasia car number 1. Nick Cassidy, the emerging Kiwi superstar. He's going to be on pole position for the number 1 Eurasia Racing New Zealand Ligier GSP 217. An extraordinary end to a disjointed LMP2 qualifying session.
And with that, of course, we come to the close of all 3 qualifying sessions. We're ready for race time. That is going to be, of course, this evening Graham couldn't remember, but I can. This evening at 5 p.m. Malaysian time, the 4 hours of Sepang will flag off into the night. That's all from us in the commentary box. But before we go, let's get down to the pits and talk to that Eurasia Motorsport team and, of course, Nick Cassidy, who came out right at the death to claim pole.
Absolutely. Nick Cassidy here with us. What a run that was. A last-minute surprise for all of us. How do you do it?
It wasn't a surprise for me.
So was it like a plan? Did you have a strategy?
Yeah, well, I've only been running one set of tyres in qualifying. Most guys are doing a couple of runs. So obviously that's more difficult. It puts a bit more pressure on. The race, if it's dry, you need all the tyres for the race. So it puts us in a better position there. So it's nice to have pole.
Fantastic. The race is just less than a couple of hours away. How are you feeling? How is the team?
Yeah, team's good. Car's okay. I mean, in practice, on the dry, I think we've been a good second and a half quicker than the rest. So it was a pretty stress-free qualifying, to be honest. I mean, we were dancing with the guys 5 minutes before the session. It's pretty relaxed here, but the weather's pretty interesting. So we'll see what happens in the rain.
Exactly. It is raining as we are speaking. So congratulations once again, Nick Cassidy right here, the guy who's sitting right in front of the grid when we flag off at 5 p.m. today. So we want to remind all of you guys to make sure you tune in. And the race is going to be finishing at 9 p.m. We're going to be racing in the dark for 4 hours of Sepang. So till then, thanks for watching.